The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixpack.net. With me, as usual, Mr. AJ Applegarth. What is up, man? Are you muted? Way to start off the show, man.
Totally,
welcome to Amateur Hour.
Totally nailed that. What is up? Apparently not my volume. And by that, I mean my mute button.
You can't blame the producer for that.
No, we cannot, Mike.
I mean, I could, but yeah, I'd be blaming by omission. So,
all right. So tonight we are going to be starting our fantasy baseball shows for the draft season and hopefully beyond. Come on, owners and players, come to an agreement, please. But yeah, so we're going to be talking some baseball prospects that you should be interested in this season and maybe beyond. But first, got to let you guys know about our Fantasy Six-Pack Series League. We're going to be doing a multi-division league with an overall champion, some division champions with our, over there on Fantrax. It's a head-to-head daily league. Or not head-to-head daily, sorry. It is a daily league, but it's Roto. And if you want to sign up, the URL is in the ticker there, tinyurl.com/F6P series. It'll be in the show notes as well. And look, if you guys have not played on Fantrax before, go ahead and create your account, fantrax.com/fantasy6pack. And look, if you play fantasy baseball and you have not played on Fantrax before, I highly recommend it, man. It is my favorite site to play on by far. The most customizable. It's free, and it's open year round. That's the coolest thing, man. It's year round. Like, you don't have to wait for whoever, I'm not going to name names, to open up their fantasy baseball for the year. That's what got me to change ultimately, and I will never turn back. It makes keeper leagues and dynasty leagues super easy. Really, it does. And you have so much more flexibility with all of those. I love it, and I know there's. The big beef in the past people had with it was there was no app. Guess what? They created an app. So they heard you, and
you shall receive.
Right? They finally did it, and so there's no more complaining about there's no app. But regardless, the whole site was mobile friendly anyway, so like there was no reason not to do it. I love the product, and like the other thing is like the player pool is so deep compared to other sites too. Like especially if you're in those dynasty and those deep keeper leagues, everybody's available. And if there's somebody not available, just email them and they'll make them available. They do it really quickly. So it's a fantastic site. I highly recommend using it if you do not. And again, fantrax.com/fantasy6pack to create your account and get your league started over there. But anyway, without further ado, we're gonna move on here and bring on our guest of the week, and it is a show favorite. Chris Blessing from Baseball HQ. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
We are good.
What up?
Awesome.
So
this is gonna be a good night.
Yeah, we look forward to the shows we have with you. We usually do 2 a year. One before the season to talk about the upcoming prospects that people should be paying attention to. And then, we do one after, about a month or so after the MLB first-year player draft, give time for people to sign and to, allowed to talk about it type of deal. But, we look forward to talking and great information from you every single time. So before we move on, though, man, I think we got to do our show favorite. This beer of the week.
Beer.
All right, man. So I saw on Twitter you had to do a beer run today. So
Yeah.
what you got for us?
Yeah, My original plan was actually to go to Dalton Brewing, which is in town, and pick up some mango IPA. But it was pouring rain when I
Sounds
left
good.
work, and I didn't feel like going getting wet. So later on, I went and got some in honor of the UGA Bulldogs winning the national championship. I got some Creature Comforts automatic pale ale.
All right.
This is Automatic for the People, restaurant in Athens, Weaver D's. Awesome soul food. Also the name of an album by REM, who are also from Athens, Georgia. So we're going to, toast UGA in Athens, Georgia tonight with some Creature Comforts.
Yeah, man, go Dogs. I got an ex-boss of mine who was a big Bulldog fan, and I was texting him before the national championship, like, think you guys are finally gonna take him down? He was like, I have no idea. We never do, so I don't know. But it finally happened, man. Congrats to them. And
finally,
I know, right? It feels like it's been forever since they've beaten Alabama. So, all right, AJ, what you got?
Said instead of hashtag Suck It Keith, which is also a show favorite, I will, for you, Chris, say hashtag Suck It Nick and Suck It Bama. I loved it. That was phenomenal. So as I crack this one open, going to the other side here with some other half brewings, Stacks on Stacks, double dry hopped Imperial IPA, and it's stacks of cash, fat stacks of cash, which is what all these baseball players are hoping to get sometime soon. Or if you're Bobby Bonilla, just forever. So, cheers.
Cool. All right, and I'm drinking a True Respite Mountains. It's a hazy IPA, 7.2%. It's a very colorful, artful can. I really like it. It's one of the better ones I've seen. So it's one of the reasons why it just kind of grabbed my attention in the store. But it's a good one, man. I gave it I think I gave this one a 4 on Untapped, if not a 4.25. It's really tasty. But cheers, guys. Let's have a good show.
You guys have Full Tilt near you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, that's close.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's close. I in the fall I had some sticky stuff from there. Thought of you guys. That's the Eno Saris beer. I was lucky enough to get my hands on some of that.
Nice.
Pretty good stuff. But yeah, I thought of you guys while I was drinking it because
that's cool.
It was I think Baltimore. I think it's in Baltimore. I know
yes, it is.
Up close to there. So I was actually able to drink one of your local breweries.
Nice.
Good stuff, man. Alrighty. So yeah, let's jump into our prospect talk here, and we're gonna start off. We're just gonna kind of run down the line here, and with the position, start off with catcher, and we're gonna start off with Mr. Adley Rutschman. He's the cream of the crop of this group by quite a long shot. It feels like. Some circles, he's the number one overall prospect just based off position. Really, I don't think people think he's the best overall like offensive player. So maybe not for fantasy purposes, he's the number one, but overall number one prospect because he's a catcher. Yes. What's your thoughts about him actually breaking camp with the Orioles, and what would be your expectation be from him this season?
Well, I think the first thing is, I'm going to clean up what you just kind of said about him being a number one prospect and all that kind of stuff. The combination of the whole package, from defense to throwing to how he calls a game to how he hits, switch hitter with a hit tool and power, they don't come around often. Obviously, Orioles fans like yourselves remember Matt Wieters, and
yes,
Matt Wieters did have a good career, but didn't end up being as great as a lot of people thought he was going to be. Is that fair?
I do remember the hype. I definitely do.
I think this guy has a better chance of verifying. Now, whether he starts the season, I'm looking at the Orioles. If I was an Orioles fan, of course, I would want to see him as soon as possible because, well, let's be honest, the product outside of Cedric Mullins, maybe not the best right now. However, I think it makes sense for them to wait. We'll see how this labor situation, how the collective bargaining agreement is. Excuse me, I'm already burping. I promise I did not drink before I came in tonight. Usually I do that, and it's a bad omen for the rest of the broadcast. So, but
it's
anyway,
good. You'll fit right in, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, we don't know what that is going to be. So if there's changes to the collective bargaining agreement where there's this no manipulation going on, I believe that Adley Rutschman is ready to get major league at bats. Now, what we will see from him, who really knows? Again, catcher when they debut tend to not debut swimmingly. Buster Posey might have been the last one, and he might be the most comparable guy to him, even though he's not a switch hitter, a guy that was seemingly ready to go when he came in as a major leaguer, and really the last great catching prospect. My belief is there's not a better combination, any position, of hit and power than Adley Rutschman. Put that as a switch hitter, that's deadly. Of course, we're concerned, just like we were with left-handed hitting Joe Mauer. We saw what concussions did to his career, what other, knick-knack, like little injuries. There's always that threat at catcher. But for my purposes, I really believe that Rutschman is the best catcher in baseball, and I have him as my number 2 fantasy prospect as well, which is guys don't want to go that high on catchers. I'm not scared with this guy because I'm looking at the data right now and I see how he's handled things, and he's glowing. Everything glows off the screen here. So his expected stats that are on the sheet basically indicate that he should be at least an average major league catcher to start out with offensively. But I think it's going to be a little more than that. He hits the ball awfully hard, and he has contact skills. And that's one thing we do look at when we're trying to project rookie catchers. We saw that with Stevenson last year with the Reds, a guy who's always had a high contact rate throughout his time in the minor leagues. And that's something that Rutschman can say he has. And there's a few other catchers too that kind of fall into that category this year too.
Well, so before we jump into other ones, I got one more question about Rutschman. And I know that he's been jumping around and not playing full-time catcher in the minors. He's been jumping around and playing, a little DH, a little first base. Is there anything to that the Orioles might actually do that with him? Because you can't be behind the plate every day, right? But they want to keep his bat in the lineup. To keep his bat in the lineup, do you think the Orioles would actually move him around into other positions to keep his bat in the lineup? And that would only just solidify his fantasy value, 100 times, in my opinion.
When you're scouting a guy, and we're talking about non-fantasy right now. When you're scouting a guy, you're trying to figure out what role they fill. And you get a role sheet from Role 2, which is like an organizational guy, a guy you don't spend much time on, a guy that probably doesn't get out of Double-A or even gets to Double-A. And then you go up all the way to Role 8. Role 8's a Hall of Fame player. You never want to assign a Role 8 to anybody. It's not a good thing, because then that's what you're living by with that organization or with that website if you're saying that this guy's the next coming of whatever. I fully believe he is the one Role 7 player that has a possibility to be a Role 7 player, a perennial all-star at catcher, because of everything that he does. He can he's improved tremendously. I saw him in spring training in 2020. And of course I only saw him in video last year, but you could see the maturation from then to now behind home plate. And the reports also is that he's a guy that pitchers like to throw to. So I don't know if if you're the Orioles, want to have him be moved around, but if you are a fantasy manager that has shares of him, you want to see him move around a little. Play a little first base, play a little DH. But most regular catchers start 5 out of every 6 games. We've got a lot of platoons going on that are like 4-2 or 3-3 these days. But like, if let's say that 6th game he's DH 2 of the 4 times, 2 of the 4 weeks of the month, that's 2 extra games.
Yeah,
or
you'll take
if
it.
they throw him at first base, again, another chance to get at bats. But I don't see, like, as the baseball man, that I don't see why you would not have him play catcher.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think catcher would be his primary role. I was just saying, like, maybe on his off days, I know
what you were
around
saying.
a bunch. So just something to think about. So you mentioned other catchers, and a guy that we've probably brought up the last 2 years is Joey Bart. I know he's out there, but there's a bunch of other guys. But like, I'm kind of wondering a little more about him. But just kind of what happened to his prospects, glow, I guess, and then anybody else that we should maybe keeping an eye on.
Well, with Bart, one of the many things that when you're projecting guys and when you're at the ballpark, you're trying to see into the future. You're trying to see what they are right now, what they're looking at right this second. And I got to see a lot of Bart at Georgia Tech. He was a Georgia Tech draftee, 2nd pick overall by the Giants. I forget what year, 2017, 2018, around there. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was 2017. Anyway, Joey Bart has dealt with tons of injuries. And anytime you miss development time, especially when you're a catcher, when you're trying to learn pitching staffs, how to game plan in the major leagues, all those kind of things, that is something that eventually catches up with you. And I think that's what's happened to Joey Bart. Power is still real. I worry a little bit about the contact. I didn't have him necessarily too high in my Fantasy 100 at Baseball HQ this year. I think he ended up being higher in our combined list than I had him at. Mostly because there's a few of our writers that like him a little more. I prefer somebody, for this year, maybe a Gabriel Moreno, who's a Blue Jays prospect. I know that the Blue Jays have Kirk and they have Jansen at catcher. Moreno's a guy who's a really good athlete. He's a guy that they worked out at third base some last year. He had an injury. He's a very good high hit tool. I saw him in 2019 playing for Lansing when I made a trip over to Cleveland and got to see the Lake County captains, the farm system of the Indians, face off against Lansing. Just really impressive. He was kind of an under radar guy at that point. And has really come into his own, high contact rate guy. Another guy who there's been arguments all off season whether he is a prospect still or not. We got this little weird fantasy service time thing in 2020 because of COVID that we're not quite sure, guys. And I've seen Baseball Reference say that he's a prospect. I've seen him say that he's not a prospect. Right now, when I checked yesterday, he was still a prospect, and that's Kibu Ruiz. Who's a Dodgers prospect who's now with the Nationals. Another guy who's always had a high contact rate. So high contact rate catchers tend to, when they debut, outperform the more power laden type guys, the guys that are relying on, driving the ball out of the ballpark, like MJ Melendez, who could be up with the Royals this year. Melendez is a heck of a power prospect and a guy that's really come into his own. Let me see it. I wrote down another name, Luis Campusano. I mean, we've been talking about him the last few years.
Yeah.
He had a terrible start to last season. Seemed to come along, looked like he was going to get a late season call back up to San Diego. Ended up getting injured. So, one of those guys kind of on the peripherals of our, guys that we're looking at. But a guy that very real could, maybe get 300 to 400 at bats this year.
All right. Good stuff. All right.
Let's go ahead and move it over to the first base position then and talk about a guy whose name I love saying, and that's Spencer Torkelson. This guy is obviously a top 10 overall player on pretty much every prospect list I've looked at. Power is not in question. the batting average has some steep declines at each level in the minors, though. So does that worry you, or is that something that we should be worried about?
Performance is not necessarily a thing that I look at when I'm scouting guys. It's something that when I go and I sit down and crunch some stats, that's when I kind of delve into that kind of stuff. This year I got to see Torkelson play in the Arizona Fall League. Got to see him in the first game. I actually posted the first at bat to my new TikTok channel. Yes,
Oh,
I'm on TikTok now.
you're cooler than we are, apparently.
Well, I saw my buddy at Prospect Live, Joe Drake, doing it, and I figured I might as well do it as well. So I haven't told him that yet. That's why I popped up there. But that's why I popped up there. I saw him doing it. I was like, way to get more followers, way to get maybe more subscriptions. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe get noticed.
Worth a shot.
I don't know who would notice me at 41 years old, but I'm the old guy now on TikTok. So anyway, I posted an at bat between him and Mackenzie Gore. And, it really makes Mackenzie Gore look better than he really is. But it kind of shows a progression of what pitchers were doing to him. And it's something that kind of took place at Arizona State where Torkelson was prior to being drafted by the Tigers. Pitchers tended to, if they got into good counts, they tended to when you're attacking a guy, every guy except for Barry Bonds in his prime has a hole in their swing somewhere. And it's just a matter of getting to it and exploiting it. And for that hitter, it's a matter of trying to figure out whether, how you protect against that. And Torkelson has always been kind of susceptible to fastballs and changeups to the lower and away from him. He's a right-handed batter. So watching him against Mackenzie Gore, the first two at bats, Gore has to be like perfect. Gore's pitch, his pitch profile, like it's totally different. I saw somebody recently say if somebody tells you to be off of Mackenzie Gore, not to follow him, I'm going to tell you, the guy that I saw all last year on video and stuff, Mackenzie Gore is probably a guy I'm not rostering. I don't think he should roster. I don't think anybody should roster until he can prove he has the pitches to get guys out in the command. Well, anyway, two great at bats against Torkelson, essentially setting him up, in and then going away with soft stuff. And Torkelson rolled over the one that I did the TikTok video of. He swung through a two-seam fastball, or it was probably a four-seam fastball, but with two-seam movement down in the zone. For the second at-bat, third at-bat, Gore missed by very little bit. Torkelson slammed a double down the line. So what that tells me is he saw how Gore was pitching him. While most young hitters are not going to make that adjustment, Torkelson just zeroed in on that. And that's something that at Arizona State against better pitching, even though he dominated, like he could completely dominate, we didn't quite see that 2 years ago. Now we're starting to see that. I don't fear the hit tool. I think that he was aggressively promoted. I think a lot of that was that the Tigers knew he could handle it. Like it's almost seemingly that they wanted him to figure it out. Like, this is a new concept for a guy that has pretty much dominated wherever he's been. You want that guy to struggle before he gets to the major leagues with something and dig himself out. Because I'm going to tell you, the major leagues are going to figure that out.
Right, yeah.
And so he's figured it out. I think he got injured or something. He didn't play long in the Arizona Fall League. I was only there for a weekend. I didn't care about the Fall League until I saw the Fall Stars game and he wasn't there. So, but yeah, like I think learned a lot from him that day, and I think that he shouldn't be worried about the batting average. I think that he's, the hit and power tool are both sound.
All right, good stuff.
All right, so that brings us to the next guy up, basically, and that's Triston Casas. I mean, he like you said, he's the next guy up. I mean, he could definitely fill a pretty large void at first base for the Sox here. Do you think that he gets that call up sooner rather than later?
He's a guy that, like, I don't know if he's fully developed yet. I love his projection. I'm a little higher on him than some other people. I know that there's some people that have him ranked around where I have him ranked. I think I have him ranked around somewhere between 10 and 15, which is very odd for me to have 2 first basemen in my top 20. Like, usually you don't touch first baseman. I know Torkelson's playing third base, but like, he's a first baseman.
Yeah.
And the thing is with Casas is he hits the ball so hard, and I still haven't seen like the launch angle. It's very heavy topspin. It reminds me of, oh God, I can't think of the dude's name. Well, anyway, lots of topspin on his line drives. Saw him hit a home run at Mesa during the fall league. I was sitting with Brad Johnson, the fantasy writer, and just absolutely pounded the ball. Dude has a lot of strength, but again, I have a history with him as well. Seen him since 2018. I've seen him develop. I've seen him pretty much change the way that a lot of this reminds me of, and I know it's a right-handed hitter that I'm going to compare this to, but a lot of his development reminds me of Austin Riley in the sense that at times Riley didn't look like he could catch up to fastballs. At times it looked like Riley, struggled with expanding the zone, that kind of thing. And then Riley finally put it all together last year, right? Not similar hitters. I've heard the comps. People like to throw Freddie Freeman comps on Casas, which is very unfair. It's not different body types. Yes, similar swing profile, but like I don't see them as similar players, if that makes sense. They're left-handed. They're have similar stances, but I don't see them as similar players. But with Casas, he's made adjustments throughout his development, which have cleaned up his swing mechanics. And I do believe he might have a tougher time when he debuts, when that time comes. I just think that he'll eventually get out of it, if that makes sense. I'm being really general here.
No, well, so like, I guess the secondary question with Casas, right, is like, we mentioned the void at first base for the Red Sox, and yeah, I mean, they had Bobby Dahl back there, and yeah, he hit 25 bombs last year, and that's cool, but like,
they're down Arizona.
Dahlbeck wasn't really that good overall last season, and so like, who's better, and like, is it worth bringing Casas up if Dahlbeck is still there?
I think so. I mean, I've never been the biggest, even though I always liked Bobby Dahlbeck as a pitcher. To be honest, I thought he'd make a better pitcher, not a first baseman.
Interesting.
I mean, they're very not similar players. We're talking about a guy that Casas at this point's not chasing. He's not swinging and missing anymore. He's taking walks. The thing that's different here is like, if you built a perfect player for first base for the Redskins, you take Dahlbeck's power and Casas's contact and marry it together, and you would have like the perfect first baseman. But that's not going to happen. This is a guy that still hasn't found his power stroke. In today's game, especially the way that the Red Sox lineup is constructed, I don't see Casas kind of overtaking Dalbec unless Dalbec is struggling or injured. I mean, it's a good problem the Red Sox have right now, is that they do have some depth up there that could contribute. And Casas has played a little third base. I don't know if you would necessarily want him at third base, but I mean,
there's flexibility at least.
There's flex. I mean, Dalbec was a third baseman at one time or another. And I'm so lost on these rosters right now. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm like completely checked out during the lockout. Like, it's just
it's tough. It really is tough. I've done my even for my rankings. Like, I've done my initial rankings, and then I'm just kind of like, I'll wait and see what happens. There's guys that have signed out, they haven't even signed yet, so it's tough to really finalize things. But we gotta do our best here to give the listeners and the readers what they want and what they need. So speaking of that, man, let's jump over to second base, and we've got leading off here with second base. Got to talk about Nolan Gorman, a guy who actually we've had our eye on for a while. It feels like. But he was third base. Now, of course, Nolan Arenado signed with the Cards, and so as much as there was talk before Arenado signed that Gorman could get a late call up in 2021. That clearly didn't happen. He needed to move positions and did very well, in my opinion. The one thing that I noticed with Gorman is that he cut down his K rate pretty good at each level, and so I think that bodes very well for him. That's something you see a lot of these prospects struggle with, especially early on. It's just massive strikeout numbers, right? So, what do you think his impact can be once he finally gets the call up?
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. I'm maybe not necessarily on him as much as others are, and primarily I'm very concerned, specifically. And we're going to get into this probably later as well. AAA right now, or I should say in 2021, had a juiced ball. And I think it's very much has affected the evaluations of hitters, especially in AAA in 2021. Gorman did not see an increase in exit velocity like a lot of guys did. So that's one thing that's concerning. So he's making more contact, but it's not as quality. It's not as good of contact.
Okay.
If that makes sense. That's
No, it does.
Yeah.
the best way to say it. I think I used incorrect English.
No, you're good. I think everybody gets it.
Now his walk rate is depressing. And so those two combinations lend me to some concern with Mr. Gorman.
Okay.
I worry that won't be ready essentially next season. And I don't necessarily, again, know what the Cardinals' plan is. I know obviously it's not third base. But like for me, I'd be very concerned with counting on him as a rookie next season.
No, that's fair enough. The Cardinals seem to always have depth in a whole lot of places. So, I don't think Gorman is somebody that I'm drafting in any fantasy league, but definitely, like, he gets a call up, I would probably, burn a waiver on him if I needed to, like, just to take a chance, because I think there's a little upside with him. I personally I like what I see, here and there from him, but I hear your concerns too.
It's a long swing with a lot of holes, and that's
all right.
Again, that's another thing that's just not, I hate to down the kid, and like that's one of the things we as writers and stuff we get into this thing where we only shine the positives, and there are and I feel like I'm shining too much negative. This kid is an extremely talented kid. He's gotten to AAA. He's a top 50 prospect. And that's even with my little glass half empty review here. I just don't think that he's a primetime player yet.
But see, that's what we need to hear, though, because everybody, everybody, looks at all the positives when they're talking about, especially a lot of these prospects and these guys are going to get called up. They always want to see, oh man, the next best thing. Everybody wants, the next, these great players to come up, right? They're not all going to be that. So, like, when you tell us things like that, well, maybe I'll think twice about it.
And it's funny that, I just thought about a moment at First Pitch Arizona several years ago where I just was like, I was downing Zach Collins when he was a prospect. And I want to say I was right. But but the thing is, somebody stopped me and he's like, what did he personally do to you? And I was like, nothing. He can't catch and he can't hit. I don't know why anybody really likes him.
It's not what he did to me. It's what he's doing to himself.
This guy has we're not talking about a black hole here. There's some contact. I'd like to see more patience. I like to see harder contact. I like the fact that he's brought some patience or brought some additional contact to his game. But of course, in today's game, we want to see guys their 75th or 90th percentile exit velocity not drop, and that's kind of what happened from one season to the next, or well, actually 2 seasons to the next since
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no So another guy here, Vidal Brujan. Brujan. He debuted late last season, but still considered a prospect. My thing with him, honestly, is just like he seems like just one of those like speed only dudes, and so like in fantasy, yeah, I mean if you're chasing speed, cool, but honestly, I don't even know how much playing time he's gonna get, if he's gonna even start the season with the Rays. Like I don't know, it's just what do you think is gonna happen with him?
Well, I've always been really high on him, and I was actually looking at one of my competitors. My good friend James Anderson came out with his top 400 the other day, and he dropped him a lot more than I dropped him, and it was warranted. He dropped him. It's a warranted need to have dropped him. Brujan came out looking like dynamite last year. We're talking about a guy that was always a hit over power guy who all of a sudden was tapping into power. Hit like 7 home runs through the first month of the year. Something ridiculous. I mean, this is not that guy. And like he was hitting. And we know now the ball was juiced and stuff, but it got here. He thought he was Willie Mays Hayes.
Oh man,
he was all of the mechanics, he just came undone. I'm still high on him because and this is something that Ron Chandler, who is the founder of Baseball HQ and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, apparently I messed up on my Gorman thing. Somebody just messaged me. His max was down, but his 90th was up. So whoever that was, thank you on that one. See, I have phone of friends here.
Yeah, that works, man.
That's pretty good.
It's like we've got extra guests with us, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's like
reinforcements.
You just don't know who it is. But Brujan is a guy that he had this skill, and it was a contact skill, and I saw that contact skill when he was in A ball, when he was in Double A, and it just disappeared. And he was all out of sorts and never really got back into sorts last year. The good for him is that he has, just oozes versatility. We're talking about 70 grade speed. Guy played right field, center field, left field, second base, shortstop, third base. First base, he's a little short for that. I don't see him, but I mean, that guy's going to find at bats in the Rays on that team. 250 at bats, probably the over under here. And I'll be honest, I'll probably take the under. They're just so loaded depth-wise.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough for fantasy. Then,
but come year 2 and year 3, after he gets out of this prospect status, then he's a guy that's probably a dude that gets slept on. So I really think it's going to be hit and speed, and like they have a place in fantasy. A lot of the hit guys especially have a place in fantasy. Throw in the fact that he's a speed guy as well, it could explode, just like you said, AJ.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things you look for, especially in a rotisserie and categories league. There's so many people that at this point have just decided, screw it, I'm punting, stolen bases and whatnot. But if you get a guy that can get you average and stolen bases, eventually, that's going to pay off, because those, to me, I think are the 2 hardest to find consistently, especially on a waiver wire. I mean, you might be able to find a flash in the pan guy that can get you some steals here and there, and then he just falls off. Or somebody that's riding a hot streak, you go with them for the average, and then they fall off. It's just too inconsistent, but I think he brings that back into being a consistent aspect for a player on your team. So, all right, looking at third base here, we'll transition over. You got Josh Jung, and he seems probably to be the most pro-ready prospects. He's got a really good contact rate, one of the best out there. Is there even still room for him to improve the power and be like a true fantasy baseball asset?
Oh, definitely. And we got to see it last year. We got to see him make the proper adjustments. Something that, article at Baseball HQ, I kind of talked about Austin Martin, who got traded from the Blue Jays to the Twins. And, kind of went over some of the things that he needed to do to get to pull power. Because Austin Martin's a guy that just shoots the right center field gap. Great launch angles to that thing. This is exactly what we were talking about with Josh Jung in 2019, what I'm saying right now about Austin Martin. If he could only pull the ball. That happened last year. Made some adjustments, specifically in the lower half. When you're hitting a ball to the other side, the other way, and that's your natural hitting stroke, it's usually to get to more power, more pull power, you've got to adjust the lower half. Got to use your leverage better, all that good stuff. He went ahead and did that without losing his natural swing. I'll go back, and again, I throw Mets guys up. I grew up a Mets fan. I apologize for that stuff.
I apologize.
And again,
I was gonna say they should apologize to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's essentially why I signed a contract with a team every year, because I can root for that team. Because it's a contractual obligation. I don't have to root for the Mets anymore. That it's really easy.
Yeah.
And this is not a comp, but if you watched a lot of David Wright, like I watched a lot of David Wright, who's from your area of the country, his swing plane was right center field. That's where he made his living, really. The power came from him being able to go the other way, and that was something that got developed as he was in the minor leagues. Because when I saw David Wright, when I wasn't doing this, he was taking the ball to right center field all the time, and there was some question marks whether he could hit for enough power in the major leagues. So I think Jung is about there. He's, from all the reports I've heard, he's a workaholic. I've also heard, which is kind of like David Wright. David Wright was a workaholic. And I also hear that he wants to get better. He also understands a lot of the tech, that kind of thing. He, overall, a guy that is going to be a fantasy asset. Whether it's this year or not, I don't know. If there was one potential starting position player that I would go after in a fantasy draft, it might be Josh Jung. So just because of the approach. I do have some concerns. He does, doesn't walk that often. I think it's more of a maturation thing. Where I fear Gorman is just an aggressive guy. I think Jung has. I just believe he's chasing because he feels like he can make the contact there. It's not necessarily in college. He was able to get away with it, and even with his previous swing. With his previous approach, where he was pretty much only going to right center field, you're more inclined to hit that outside pitch going that way. And so I believe that will start cleaning itself up. I would almost guess that it starts cleaning itself up now, like in spring training, when they're allowed to play games again.
Yeah, I think the other thing to look at with him too is, Texas was pretty aggressive going out into, before the lockout and whatnot. But they didn't really do much with third base. I mean, you've got Brock Holt as your starting third baseman potentially, followed by Charlie Culberson. I think they're ready to, move forward with somebody that's actually going to be worth something at that spot. So
you can't. By the way, in my household, you cannot down Charlie Culberson. My wife went to the same high school as Charlie
Oh,
Culberson.
nice. Okay.
And so, like, anytime you down somebody who came from this area, you're not going to get that. And she's not home right now, but she might be listening and watching this. So I'm sorry, man.
We
That's
want
all right.
Chris
Probably not
back.
gonna
We're
be
sorry. We're sorry.
I apologize. I was
Never
thinking
again.
of a different Culberson, I think.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Charlie
man, so
Murphy.
funny.
That's who I was thinking of.
They
Charlie
are probably gonna start. You know,
Murphy. I mean,
IKF.
I would start-
Kinnear Falefa. He was solid last year.
But I mean, he might
But that's-
shift over to short.
He could move to anywhere.
I
But
mean,
no,
he
of
also
course he's not.
signed-
Corey Seager.
He also signed 2 shortstops. So
True.
we're I guess
Yeah.
he plays second.
Yeah. So all right. So
you know.
IKF might knock Brock Holt out of the way and unfortunately take some at bats away from our friend Charlie Culbertson here. So moving on to some other third basemen though. Other prospects. Obviously, you got Brett Beatty, you got Nolan Jones, you got Mark Vientos, and Jose Miranda. I mean, do you think any of these players are going to make any kind of an impact in 2022?
I don't believe it. I've heard some people that they're higher than maybe I am on Miranda's impact this year. He's a guy that was previously a contact hitter. Found power last year. Pretty much dominated. Took advantage of some of the power gains that everybody got in AAA. But again, it's a guy that I don't know. I didn't have him in my top 100. I don't know how much I believe that. I watched probably about 8 to 10 games of his and just wasn't necessarily on there. By the way, my wife just liked the tweet of our thing, so there's a very good chance that.
Oh man.
So
AJ.
So sorry.
Andrew, you're fired. No, just kidding.
But anyway, she's probably like, "What are you talking about?"
You can skip over minutes 40 to 50.
But anyway, like I don't know. I would assume Beatty's up at some point. Vientos could be up as well for the Mets. Those are 2 guys that Beatty's not going to bring it as a fantasy player yet. I don't think I got to see a bunch of him in the Arizona Fall League. It seemed like almost every game I went to, Brett Beatty was playing. And I saw a guy that hit the ball hard, a good bit, a lot of hard contact. Not the sort of contact like it was like consistent hard contact. He wasn't getting to like high max exit velocities, but he was consistently getting off the bat there. At least my look, he was consistently between like 95 to about 105. So like he's consistent. He wasn't like killing the ball, but he was also lining balls to left field, to center field, to right field. Loved the left center field gap, but the issue here is there's not much launch angle on his trajectory, and without that launch angle, I mean it's just average. And a third base just average doesn't necessarily carry it right now. But I think he's a guy that's a good enough hitter that will find that. I have him a lot higher than most of the fantasy guys do, ranking wise, because I do believe in that. Because I've seen that in other hitters before. I think that's a lot of what I might have over some other people's. I've been doing this since 2009, and I've seen guys similar Brett Beatty profiles come through who don't look like they're going to hit much power. And then all of a sudden put it together, even though maybe their launch angle was, maybe a little bit improved. Not making the comp here, but Christian Yelich was a guy like that who might have hit the ball a lot harder, to be truthful, when I saw him in the minor leagues. But he was also a guy that, basically just shot line drives all the time. So, you see a thing or two. You start to kind of believe it with other guys. So, and I think the last guy that we mentioned, there was one other guy, right? Looking at our sheet here,
Nolan
Mark
Jones.
Vientos.
Yeah,
Nolan Jones. Well, Vientos, I'm not completely sold on his ability to make contact yet. I think that there's one or two more adjustments needed there. I think that there's like an equal chance of him being a major league starting caliber player, probably at first base, and an even chance of him being a 4A Japanese star or something like that. Like, there's like this. It's hard. I go back and forth a lot. I had him in my top 100, just barely. The other guy on this list is Nolan Jones, who's really fallen off the deep end. And if he comes up, he's going to come up probably as a right fielder. And I don't know what to expect for him. He looked like there was two trajectories. He was another guy that a lot of guys argued with about having these same trajectories, where he looked like he could easily be a regular player, or he'd be that 4A type guy. And last year, he didn't even look like that 4A type guy. He struggled mightily. So I'm kind of off him. I think everybody's kind of off him right now. So probably not a guy to really count on. But again, the Indians have a lot of dudes out there that kind of fit the same profile of Indians. I said Indians. Oh God, that's a quarter in the that's a quarter in the jar right now. The Guardians have. I
will do it 3 million times this year. I just no fail. It's not gonna. Yeah, I guarantee it's gonna happen.
I have friends in that organization. I should know better. I really should. I don't have I don't have any Guardians gear yet. So until I get Guardians gear, maybe that will change. But yeah, I'm just kind of off of him. So like that's a guy I would not consider making an impact this year.
All right, well, let's slide over here to shortstop and probably the consensus number one overall prospect on a lot of people's boards, and it's Bobby Witt Jr. I feel like there's almost no doubt he's going to break camp with the Royals, although I've been surprised before. Even if he doesn't, it'll be soon, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think I just saw you nod your head. Like, yeah, you agree. So, like, just how good can this kid be at the major league level? And does he, like, in a fantasy league, right? Like, if we can get into this, like, in a fantasy league, like, is he one of those prospects where you'll take him, a late, like a top 10 round pick on him just because he can be that good?
I saw somebody today that I respect. I forget who it was that said they took him in their 120 sometime, before 120, and they kind of instantly regretted it. But whatever. I'm a guy that
immediately regret this decision.
But let's look at it. Look at it for what it is. Dude doesn't necessarily make much contact. I think he had like a 30% swing and miss rate, something like that, maybe a little bit above that. Barely walks. This is concerning stuff. I had him ranked pretty high, to be honest with you. He was my number one fantasy, prospect going into a couple weeks ago, and then had a buddy just kind of tell me, "Hey, man, you might want to calm down on that one, dial it back." So I went ahead and sometimes when somebody tells you that, you still go full in, but in this case, I really dove in hard on him and. My thinking is that there's a lot of things that still need to be corrected with him. I think that this kid is uberly talented and a natural, it's been around this game, but like, there's a lot of hype here. And
there's always those one or two every year that they get like massive hype and they don't pan out.
And when we were talking with Gorman, we were talking about making a few adjustments. This is a kid that needs to make a few adjustments as well. So I'm kind of bearish on his outlook for 2022, and I think people need to take that into consideration. The shiny tools are never as shiny as they are. That anybody believes them in their rookie year usually, especially for a guy that's swinging and missing as much as he is, chasing as much as he is. I mean, this guy chases out of the zone at a
I'll
very
say
high
22%
rate.
to 24% K rate's not terrible. I've seen way worse for some high end prospects, but yeah, you would love to see it lower in the minors.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is like, see, you have that. I can see swings and misses. And
Yeah,
swings
see,
and
this
misses
is all I got
something-
right now. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I can.
all, it's all the public has, and see, that's the thing.
I wish they
It's
had
all-
better minor league stats because, of course, we don't get like
don't-
the swinging strike rates.
I've
for,
gotten lucky the last 2 seasons that I've had nice friends that have smuggled stuff to me. And this year I've already have somebody on that's like, I'll help you out when I can. But like the thing is having services like minor league baseball, MILB TV, it's super cheap, cheap. Like if you're a serious manager and you like rookies, that's the dude. That's the app that you need. You need that app to really look at these guys, and you'll see that, hey, a third of this guy's swings is going to be a miss, or around a third, something like that. It's going to be,
if not more,
miss.
once it gets
And
to the
that's
pros.
And that's not
Yeah.
that's not gonna. AAA pitching was terrible. AA pitching's terrible. Like those things were terrible this year. I sat through those games. Pitching was terrible. So like this is not a guy that I would have ranked in my 200, 250. Really, truly. When I go into the draft, when I go into a redraft or something like that, like I'm not looking at him to do that this year. And you're chasing steals, and that's never a good place to be. I'd rather spend on a guy early in a draft, like a Starling Marte, who's like, 32, 33. But like, I feel confident that when he's healthy, he's going to get me my steals that I need, right? I don't need to settle for a guy at pick 100, or I saw him picked in the 80s the other day by somebody. I'm like, it's just not going to happen. The dude is, the dude's swinging and missing a third of the time. Like that's not good.
So we've got fantasy writer, Dynasty Baseball.
I'm a prospect content creator. I'm no longer. I'm fantasy writing is one thing. Like I'm all of this stuff. Let's call me when I am.
Well, no. But I was gonna say we have a comment from Dave Eddy, and I think you know Dave. I know you've been in some mocks with Dave before.
Been in Dave's,
so he is our Dynasty Baseball manager over here at Fantasy Six Pack, and he wants to get your opinion on what I can't Paulson.
I want you to just put Poussin. I think it's his name.
Poussin. Sorry.
Sure. Hold on. Let me get my list up here real quick.
All right. Yeah. He had another guy for third, and I missed the comment, so I apologize about that one, Dave. We got another one for outfield coming up too. But
This is the comment.
yeah, I just passed on it because I wasn't going to backtrack on the show. Sorry, Dave. Dave's trying to take over the show.
Oh, third base. All right, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Do you think
You muted yourself.
Poussin or yeah? I don't know if
muted yourself.
you are muted. Oh, we can get you. Oh, you can't. I mean, their mic isn't connected. Interesting. Your mic's not connected. Might want to change over to the other one. Oh man, don't have much of a show if Chris can't connect his mic.
There we go.
We got it.
Is it on the right mic?
Yeah, we got it. We got it now. So yeah. So what's your thoughts on him, and can he figure things out or not?
I don't know. I've never been the highest on him. I haven't really dug into him that much this year, mostly because I don't have Oakland Athletics coverage. But I will go into the Baseball HQ and see what they say. This is I don't know who the evaluator was on this, but this book right here, Minor League Baseball Analyst. It's shipping, I think, next week. I was able to get one this week, which was really, really cool.
Way to go, Dave.
So yeah, you
Broke
picked
the
it.
show.
But see, here's the
Yes,
thing.
you
Here's
did,
the thing.
Dave.
I'm gonna admit when I don't know, don't know any book, somebody kind of thing. So I haven't done really much research since like 2021 on him. I kind of saw the performance. Again, this is what we have written. Young, toolsy shortstop who struggled in first taste of pro ball. Long, lean, projectable frame. Should add strength over time and has at least average power potential. Best present tool is speed and borders on double plus. Very raw hitter who has far too many Ks and ground balls. Has natural shortstop ability. So that was from our writer on there. I just, it's not necessarily a guy that, really kind of get excited about. He'll probably be a guy that I check out this year on video, especially now that Dave, stumped me. But I'll be honest, I don't, I don't know. The Oakland Athletics, have they really developed a hitter in a while? I mean, not since Olsen and Chapman. Like, it's been a while. So, it's not really an organization I go to that often. I looked at Nick Allen a little bit this year, kind of shortstop on the Olympic team. But it's a organization, it's a farm system that's down right now. So for my top 150, because I only do top 150, I didn't really concentrate too much on him.
All right, well, fair enough. We will try to close out here quickly on shortstop and just give your quick thoughts on one or two of these guys, if any of them matter all that much, at least specifically for this year. But some other, there's not a lot of other prospects that are going to make an impact this year, I feel like. But there's a lot of guys who are very interesting and very high up the overall prospect ranking list when you go look around at various sites. We got Marco Luciano, we got CJ Abrams, we got Marcelo Mayer, we got Anthony Volpe, we got Ono Cruz, we got Marte, all these guys, they're all very talented in their own way. And do any of them see time this year? Would be the first question. And then would they be worth picking up in fantasy if they do get the call up, or are you just kind of passing on them?
Well, I've been a CJ Adams fan since I saw him in 2019 for Blessed Trinity High School in Roswell, Georgia. Just fell in love right away. And he's a guy that will, I think ends up with quite a few major league at bats this year. So, we don't quite know what Tatis's long-term plan is at shortstop after the shoulder injury. Mm-hmm. We saw him play left field, saw him, not there. And it's not like he can move over to third base with Machado there. So we're not quite sure what that plan is for him. Abrams was a guy that during spring training was working out at second base, ended up getting injured during the season last year, would have probably been up late. I don't know if they make the Frazier trade during the season if Abrams wasn't healthy. So that tells you how high up, how their thoughts were with the guy. We did this podcast or forum last year. I was on a live game chat with Steve Gardner from USA Today and Paul Spohr from Fangraphs, and we just it was superlative after superlative about Abrams. I really like his ability to affect all aspects of the game: defense, speed. Contact, hitting, line, working the gaps, that kind of thing. I think power will also come to that profile as well. So he's my one guy that I kind of really feel good about. Another guy I feel really good about is O'Neal Cruz, who's the Pirates 6'7" shortstop prospect. I don't know if he necessarily.
Yeah, Dave agrees. Apparently,
he's there. But this guy, all he did last year was hit the ball hard. Just scolded the ball wherever he was at. I got to see him in 2019. Another guy that I didn't get to see in 2021 except for video. And he was a guy that I've always been a little leery about, and I thought that. Longer lever guys always scare me with their contact tool. And I really believe that this is a guy that has, his holes because of his levers aren't as pronounced as some other guys that are this tall. So like this is a guy that's getting to these balls, making good contact. A real potential stud for the Pirates, for an organization that needs as many potential studs as they possibly can get.
All right. Well, let's jump into the outfield here. You got Julio Rodriguez. He seems to be leading the group, but Riley Greene's not that far behind him. I mean, of these two guys, which one do you think makes more of an impact this season?
That's a question that when this got sent over to me, I've been debating ever since. Just because, I'm huge fan of Julio Rodriguez, a guy that seemingly has hit everywhere that he's been. I saw him in 2019, saw him a little bit in 2021. And the Mariners are doing everything right now. I think our friends at Baseball America might have named them the top organization, which is, excuse me, the automatic's getting to me. See, that's the hard thing about this podcast. It's the burping. It's all that kind of stuff. I'm not used to drinking beer while doing.
See, it's cool. We get to drink beer and burp and mute ourselves, and you have to do all the talking for this show. Yeah, usually it's the other way around for us, so we're good.
Yeah,
that's why we like you so much. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm sure this show is probably the reason why
we're gonna make it 6 times.
Gotten a major league job or something like that. They're like, he's that guy that burps on the while talking about prospects on that one podcast. But anyway, I was on Julio Rodriguez. Sorry, a little squirrel moment there.
You fit right in with AJ. Don't worry.
Yeah. So again, a guy that has always impacted the ball hard, and we're starting to see a dude starting to really understand his swing mechanics, how that works. A tireless worker, that kind of thing. What surprised me, I love hit tools, and Riley Greene's hit tool is just dynamic. This is a guy that could be a 70-grade hitter. And I will say that for 2021 impact, I might be going with Riley Greene just because of that. I think that there's again, for rookie guys, I put a big premium on dudes that can spray the ball around, can make some contact and that kind of thing. I know that sounds so simple, but every year the guys that tend to do the best, those rookies that tend to do the best, are those guys with the underlying hit tool. And Riley Greene's underlying hit tool is phenomenal. He would have probably been in the major leagues if not for 2020 season being shut down. That's how quickly he was moving, which is pretty amazing for a 2018 high school guy who could have already been in the major leagues. So I'm going with Riley Greene.
All right.
I like it. So there's obviously no doubt that we'll have a few other prospects that are going to get called up in the outfield position. List off another, 1 to 2 guys or so that we should just be keeping an eye on aside from the 2 that we just talked about.
I'll throw a sleeper out there. I'll throw 2 sleepers out there. 2 guys I really like. One guy has a very high strikeout rate, but absolutely just, I don't know. He just impressed me. I got to see him in the fall league as well. So these are 2 sleeper guys that might contribute this year. And his name's Kyle Stowers, the Orioles prospect. And I did pick that partially because you guys are Orioles fans, and I like to do that. But I really believe in the bat. I think that there's contact to be found. I think that this is a kid, and let me look it up real quick.
Stowers.
Yeah, this is a kid that didn't necessarily chase too much. There was a high swing and miss rate. It was below 40%, but it was above 30%. So that's not good. Coaching, the Orioles player development right now is some of the best coaching that you're going to see. They're using techniques just like the San Francisco Giants. Like they're taking batting, essentially what's live batting practice, what really is live batting practice, which is throwing breaking pitches, that kind of thing. Their guys are seeing things that other teams aren't. Batting practice is a different animal for the Giants organization, for the Orioles organization, for some other organizations as well. So those philosophies have helped out, and from my understanding, it's really helped out a kid like this. And they believe, as a staff, from my contacts within that organization, that they can shave that swing and miss rate down. And if they're able to do that, we're looking at a guy with some real power potential here, and a guy that I really do believe is a true sleeper. It's hard to find sleepers in AA, AAA range these days, especially with it's oversaturated. The coverage out there, which is a good thing in a lot of cases, because there's so many people. I always tell people to bounce off. Like, you should be subscribed to Dave Eddy. You should be subscribed to some of my other friends as well. You should have a subscription to Baseball America if you can afford it. You should have a subscription to us, of course. You should, if you can have, I try to go as many different places to see what the attitudes are of everybody else. And he's a guy that's not necessarily as highly touted as I've seen other places. A guy that I was talking to somebody tonight about that I had in here, in this is Stephen Kwan. He's a Guardians. I said it correctly this time. He's Guardians outfielder. Had an awesome season, split between AA and AAA last year. This guy seems to do a lot of things right. Very disciplined hitter, makes a whole lot of contact. Has some surprising pop. It's not necessarily like, your traditional, what you're seeing with launch angle and that kind of thing this year, or in the last few years. This guy's a more complete hitter, but he's a sleeper, and he's a guy in an organization like the Guardians. The Guardians have a lot of these guys, a lot of Stephen Kwans, Nolan Jones, who would, another guy that throws in the outfield mix. They have a lot of guys that, other than Miles Straw, I don't see anybody really having a defined role in that outfield next year. So Stephen Kwan could potentially sneak in as maybe, a corner outfielder for them. You just don't know. You don't know where it's going. You don't know if Naylor is going to be one of them. You don't know if Bradley Zimmer is going to be a guy out there. Like, it's a bunch of these guys that are kind of on the cusp of being productive major leaguers or not, that are going to be competing for these roles. So I really think Kwan can find a lot of bats next year if he, shows up to spring training ready and willing to go, and willing to, outperform the other guys that are kind of, I don't want to say replacement players, because I think that there's some talent there, but some maybe underperforming guys like Bradley Zimmer and Mercado and Nolan Jones, who underperformed last year in the minor league. So definitely a guy I would consider.
Right. So we did have another outfield question from Dave earlier, and I'm trying to scroll up to find it now.
Is it about the outfield, or is it about the outfield, like the band, the outfield? I don't want to lose your love tonight.
Yeah, that used to be one of our playing songs, so I realized it was possibly copyrighted. Decided to pull that crap real quick. I was like, no, wait, no, never mind. Pause that. So yeah, if we're talking, he said while we were talking about the Mets, hear a little bit about Alexander Ramirez.
Yeah, a kid that I clicked on the wrong Alexander. You know that there's two of them, and I only found the one.
I had to look at what it was. I typed in Mets Alexander Ramirez. Are there two on the Mets?
No, there's one in the Angels organization.
Oh, okay. Well, he is specifically talking about the Mets, so I figured out it was an outfielder.
That was the guy. So I had, for Baseball HQ this year, I had both Angels and Mets, and I'm going to say that the Angels guy, somebody that I watched video of and did not write up. So Ramirez is a kid that I ended up writing up for Baseball HQ this year, and I'm going to just pull that out because it's just easier that way. Because, I've been drinking.
We're just here having a good time. I love it.
But he was one of the youngest guys in class in low A Southeast in the Florida low A thing. And he had 300 at bats there. He's a teenager who made a full season debut after performing in extended spring training. Average to above average tools across the board. Upright, even stance with leg lift to load. Struggles with consistent bat path and swing length, which pretty much every teenager does. Raw plus power and swing, mostly to pull side. Average runner, but should stick in center field with good instincts and a strong arm. So, hardest video to find last year was Alex Ramirez, at least for me. We had low A, only had one MILB TV destination there, and that was Bradenton. My goal was I went to Tampa, and that was one of the teams I wanted to go see because I have that coverage. Unfortunately, because of COVID and tropical storm and all of this stuff, I never got to Dundon to go see them. So I never got to really scout them. So I relied primarily on contacts and on some video that I got during the 2020 extended spring training. I do know that the Mets organizationally are very high on him. But it's an organization, whenever I've talked to people from there, that I don't necessarily know if I'm getting the full story or what they want from me. Like, it was awesome that, Tyler McGill, got a great story on him before I even went into video about him. And then would get video on somebody else or get information on somebody else and then watch him and be like, I don't know about that necessarily. But he's a guy that they're high on. There, two contacts that I spoke to that saw him, both were high on him. I know that during extended spring training, he apparently impressed. They didn't necessarily have a real extended spring training. It was more like a hitter's camp. They think that he's mature. They believe that he should take a big step next year. And thankfully, I'll be able to see him. He'll be at Brooklyn. Brooklyn comes down here next year, so I'll be able to probably get some at-bats from him and not have to rely on contacts to fill me in on him at least.
Nice. Sounds like you guys need to hook up and get the podcasting going over there because Dave focuses on more of the dynasty side of things and he goes a little bit deeper into the prospects than we do. I play in a dynasty league and so does AJ, but I don't focus on it. We don't focus on it for this podcast specifically, but let's finish off here with the positions and jump into the pitchers. And there's two right off the bat that we want to talk about, and it's Grayson Rodriguez and Shane Baz. Baz debuted a little bit last season, did very well in his I think 3 starts. Do you believe he can carry that momentum and that success this coming season?
I believe so. 5 years ago, I would have probably told you that this guy presented as a reliever and all this kind of stuff, but things have changed. And this is a kid that relies heavily on essentially a 2-pitch mix, but specifically a high riding fastball. Got to see him at the AFL in 2019. Got to see him last year. Never traveled to go see him, and then he didn't start that game, so didn't get to see him in person. But got to see plenty of him on video. Got to see his major league debut. I believe that the pitch to this tunneling ability, the ability to ride his fastball, get it straight on a plane, it just kind of explodes on hitters, and that breaking ball is just absolutely deadly. I really think that he's a guy that's primed for a solid season. Again, he's with the Rays. However they use their pitchers, it's going to be however they use their pitchers. But I'm really big on him long term. He's one of my only 2 pitchers that I have in my top 20 fantasy prospects. Of course, the other one's Grayson Rodriguez, who you already kind of mentioned there.
Yeah, so my question with him, right, and you kind of alluded to this earlier with the other the outfielder that you mentioned about the developmental processes they have now, but like as an O's fan,
Yeah,
I can't help but just to think about all of the bad, specifically pitching development that they've had, and basically none, right? I mean, we see guys leave and they do phenomenal. Kevin Gausman, right? Like, but they come here as highly touted as they are. It doesn't matter how highly touted they are. They all do terrible. So there's a combination of things here, right? So there's a new regime, right? There's whole new management, whole new, development staff there in the minors and up. How much does that help? And everybody's got to put into consideration they've moved back and up actually the park fences in Camden Yards. And like putting those two things combined, can a guy who is highly touted as Rodriguez is right now really come in and just be what he should actually be for the Orioles for once? Something they've needed for a long time.
I think it's he's the one true SP1 that is in the minor leagues right now.
Okay.
Pitch mix, quality of pitches, all of that in one. We really saw him maturate this year on pitch usage, sequencing of pitches, how they were calling his pitches, how he was executing within the sequence. We saw those improvements throughout the year. I know my buddy Jeff at Baseball America saw him when he was at Prospect Live. I know several other writers had seen him. Several other scouting contacts that I had saw him last year. And it was the thing everybody talked about. I mean, that slider, the fastball. I mean, it's a very dominating pitch mix. As for the player development with the Orioles, I think that there's like 7 or 8 teams that are, better at developing pitching right now, and I would throw them into that mix. Understanding the science of pitching, I would say that they're ahead of the curve compared to a lot of organizations.
I'm waiting to see it work.
Well, I had somebody from the Orioles joke to me during the 2020 thing. Is like, well, if they just call the whole season, what does it matter to us? Like, we're going to be terrible anyway. We knew we were going to be terrible anyway. They're trying to build a winner. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're trying to build a consistent winner, and you see it throughout their minor leagues. I love their draft this year. I've loved their last few drafts. I know that the one dude didn't get to play last year. Yeah, that was a shame. But this is an organization that understands that the way that we were developing pitching for so long has changed. We were just talking about the Mets organization. Like, looking at the Mets organization, it's obvious that the major league club and the minor leagues are on two different planes right now. And I don't think that's the case with the Orioles. I think that everybody's on the same page. And I think that's a purposeful thing. So
their GM sort of built the minor league staffs too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did. And that says a lot. That's you've got to build up from the bottom up. You see these teams, and unfortunately, two of the better pitching teams, developing pitching teams, are in the division with the Orioles. So they're going to have to compete with them. That's the
Tampa,
the Yankees, and Tampa,
right?
Cleveland, I would throw in that mix. I would throw Miami.
They've always been good.
Miami into that mix, of course.
Miami,
The Dodgers.
Miami's just random guys, yeah.
And I would throw. I had one of the Braves. I really, I've been very impressed with the Braves recently. They've really improved on.
Braves get hit with injuries, unfortunately. So do the Mets.
They do. They won the World Series this year, so I mean they were pretty.
You're happy for a while.
I wasn't.
Oh no!
No. I rooted for him because I had so many friends. Like at this point, you root for friends in baseball and stuff. So like, having
Sorry, I forget. I know you said you grew up a
fan.
Mets fan. I didn't realize you were still were. I thought like maybe you converted since you're down in the Georgia Tech territory. I thought maybe you converted to
No.
No, all right.
No. I'm not a fair weather fan, but I am a fan of whatever team I sign with. And right now I'm unsigned, so I'm not a fan of any team.
All right.
So, but yeah, I think that the Orioles are one of the better teams that develop in pitching.
Cool.
They're one of the better teams that are developing hitting. I think we're sitting here 2 years from now, dude. I think we're having a completely different discussion about.
I hope so, man. I've been dying. We the O's got just sort of fell into dumb luck. It felt like for the what was it, like the mid 2000s, I guess, is whatever the hell they were last good. Pretty bad.
Like late single digit.
Yeah, either way, like this kind of felt like they fell into dumb luck. Like that
early teens.
The Adam Jones trade really worked out for him. Wieters came up and was solid, but and like their pitchers were just good enough. It's just baseball changed real quick and they weren't good anymore. But
the pitching didn't need to be great.
It wasn't phenomenal.
Offense was so good.
Yeah, so
that they would get it done.
So Chris, before we jump off to the last two questions, I want to you don't have to go into like why, but just a couple. Just give us names here. Pitching prospects that we should keep an eye on for 2022. Some other guys.
I wrote down Nick Lodelo, who's a guy that I saw
heard that before.
Last year with Chattanooga. Reed Detmers, who made it up to the Angels last year. He seemed like a dude that kind of, he seemed very tired when he came up. He wasn't the same pitcher that I saw in Double-A. I think that there's a boom potential there in his second cup of coffee. We saw Aaron Ashby in relief for the Brewers. He's an interesting guy because you'll talk to somebody and they'll have him in a different role than other guy. Like some guys think he's a starting pitcher. Some have him as a pen guy. I talked to one guy that says, "Oh, I wish I had him as a bulk reliever. It would be awesome." But who knows if it's this year? But like, I'm gonna always take the Brewers' side on a guy like this. Peralta, Burns, Woodruff.
Took a while with Peralta. That was
That's
patience.
the thing. Yeah. Again, I didn't mention them. That's the eighth team. That's the eighth team that I missed. When I was the Brewers.
No, you're good.
And I will also throw in the Mariners as another one of those teams too. Matt Brash, who came up. I don't know if he ever got in a game last year for the Mariners, but he really improved his stock last year working in the Mariners organization. Roansy Contreras is a guy that I really like. He's probably going to come up on another question. And Joe Ryan is a guy that I've been pretty high on ever since I saw him a few years ago.
Seems like a good name.
Joe Ryan's very easy. He came up with the Rays, got traded to the Twins. It's a fastball heavy arsenal. Another guy that people are kind of split on how he's going to be used. I think he's a golden type guy. I love him. He's a mid rotation starter for me, while some guys have him as a bulk reliever or something like that. That's one of the things in fantasy baseball with so many leagues being transferred from wins to innings pitched that these bulk relievers become even more important. So if Joe Ryan's role is a bulk reliever at some point or whatever, like that's still a lot of value there because there's that's innings pitched instead of wins. Yeah. And as we continue to see that trend, I would expect guys like him and Ashby to be more highly sought out after compared to how they might have been sought after in 2018, 2019, where those questions might have had them further down on prospect lists.
Yeah. So Dave loves your Lodelo call, by the way. So, but all right, let's close up here with the last couple of questions here.
All right. So just from a view as a whole here, who would be some of your favorite prospects to draft fantasy wise in a redraft league?
Well, I end up not necessarily going after a lot of rookies in redraft leagues. And that's a good thing for me because people assume that since I'm the prospect guy, that's what I'm going to do. I don't trust prospects, especially as rookies.
Yeah.
So not necessarily going to go for them. But I recently noticed while doing research, I'm about to get in my first redraft league of the year, that Rosie's Contreras is being picked after, like 450 around there in a lot of leagues. And he's a guy that I'd probably target after 400 that I feel very confident will have, and he's a Pirates pitcher. I feel very confident that he will be a sustainable arm for me in my rotation. So he's a guy that I'm targeting. I also mentioned Josh Jung. That would be the other guy that I would probably target. If wherever the price is right, I didn't necessarily look up where his draft is. I'm not an ADP person. I only use ADP to figure out what other people are thinking, and then kind of trying to judge that. I don't know how you guys play that. I know there's some people that are very strict with ADP. I'm not.
That's a different show, different conversation. But basically, my thing is, I use it as a tool. I don't use it as a Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I use
depends on the league I'm in too.
Yeah.
I use the projections that I believe in. I have a good mix of about 3 projections, and then and then I go with my gut after that. And
that's more along the lines of what I do. But but I also mix in ADP with my rankings a little bit because that does play a role as to where they're actually going to get drafted. And so, I don't need to go up to the 5th round to go get this guy. I can probably wait another round if I really like him, type of thing. So even though his ADP is 8th round, I can go up a round or 2 on him, but I don't need to. And then that's where the value picking comes. So, but that's a much
value picking.
What?
There's no such thing as value picking.
If you reach on a player. And you could have gotten a equal value player. There is, but we can again different conversation. I could go for an hour on this, but so all right, so you like Rosie Contreras. So of course with these prospect guys, right? The last question here we've got is there's always in dynasty leagues where players don't get drafted in first year player drafts. And I know this is a very, very tough question because every league is different, but players do not get drafted in first year player drafts. Players don't get picked up. Who's a guy who you could see that is completely under the radar? 1 or 2 guys, if you have them, that could be somebody that could be out there on some dynasty leagues and go, you need to go out and get him now because he's going to be a very valuable player for you down the road.
Well, guys that are out there right now, I don't consider him necessarily a sleeper type for this question, but he's out there because he's getting so much press, and that's another Orioles prospect. And I'm not doing this on purpose now. This is really my answer.
All lies.
But Kobe Mayo is he's a dude in the scout sense. Dude just absolutely scolds the ball. Third baseman. I got to see 2 at-bats before getting rained out in Sarasota last August. Guy that I already talked about is another dude, Stephen Kwan. The crazy thing with I almost said
Guardians.
The Guardians.
I got you.
But I didn't say it. A lot of guys with the Guardians. I'm gonna have to work on that every day.
Sticky note on your forehead. Put a mirror over here. You'll figure it out.
But there's so many sleeper types in that. There's so many sleeper types in that organization.
Yeah.
There's a Palacios kid that a lot of guys are concentrating on it, and I don't know what position that guy's going to play. I'm not as high on him as some of the other people are, but for every Palacios guy, there's tons of other guys throughout that organization. I particularly like deeper in that organization, Junior San Quentin, guy that I like that hasn't really had much play. And that's more of a scouting thing for me. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's anybody else that I would throw out into this conversation right now. And I almost said Adley Rutschman, but he's not somebody that's unknown, right?
He's probably taken in every
Might
league.
be a
but,
couple
yeah.
people that know him.
Yeah, there might be quite a few people that him.
No, that's all good, man.
Another real sleeper,
right, we'll
a guy
take one.
that's been around for a while in the Pirates organization that I've always kind of had a fascination with is Lolo Sanchez. He's an outfield prospect. He's a guy that I've been waiting for him to take the next step. I don't know if necessarily he's going to take that next step, but he's a dude that's worth a flyer. Like, he's still young enough that like he could be a decent prospect.
Okay.
I noticed on 2 of the leagues that I'm in, Blaze Jordan's a guy that's still available. Big power bat in the Red Sox organization. I think that there's a lot of swing and miss there. I'm not necessarily the highest on him, but I'm trying to draft him in one of my leagues right now because I think he's going to have a huge power season next year. And, guys like that are great guys to have to get guys later on, get better players. And that's, a lot of people go and collect prospects. I always tell them don't collect prospects. Only collect prospects that you're going to move or develop. You can't develop all of them. You can't move all of them. But like you need to do that to be competitive. Don't ever rebuild. Just try to constantly get better through your drafts. And sometimes it's trading guys away for, that one tool to get you into the money in your dynasty league.
I 100% agree with you, man. And it's harder, like I know Dave here who's commenting a lot here, and also says, Polana is a guy he's always thought much higher of the most, but Dave plays in these like 30-man dynasty leagues, and I'm like, holy cow! Like, that's like 1,000 players. Like, I don't know, if not more. Like, that's just insane to me. I literally couldn't tell you who half the people he probably has on his rosters. But anyway,
I've had to go to. I've only done co-managing things now with dynasty leagues and keeper leagues. I just don't have the time. I have like 4 or 5 jobs. It's hard. It's hard to do that. I admire people like Dave and some of the other guys that seemingly own teams in every league. There's some guys like I just joined a league as a co-manager with Brad Johnson of NBC Sports Edge and MLB Trade Rumors, and we were just I was just like, that guy's in every league that I'm in, like. Except for my home league, there's a guy in that league that's in every league that I'm in.
That's funny.
And I don't know how he does it. And he's very active, too, so it's, like, crazy.
Oh, man, the 30 teamers he's in has 60-man rosters. That's insane. Like, are you drafting the players that haven't been drafted yet? Like, I don't even know. Anyway, all right, Chris, we want to thank you for coming on again, man. We always have a blast talking to you, and you bring great information. We love it every single time. So, but before you go, man, just let everybody know where they can find your stuff and what you got going on this year, and any promotions you guys got going on.
All right, let's try to go through this real quickly. Baseball Forecaster, minor league baseball analyst, available at Baseball HQ and at Amazon and at fine bookstores. The Lindy's baseball previews at your magazine, your favorite newsstand right now. I have an article in that. I also am doing the Eyes Have It podcast with Brett Hershey. We'll be starting that up probably in March. We haven't talked about that. Baseball HQ will have First Pitch Florida the first weekend of March. Games or no games in St. Petersburg at the Marriott. They'll also be having the labor drafts at that thing. I don't think I will be attending that, but I still got to promote that for the site.
Absolutely.
Just don't have the time or the money to allocate to that, especially if I go and do some spring training work. You can find my work usually at Baseball HQ. Look me up on TikTok now. That's a new one.
He's cooler than all of us, guys.
Yeah, I haven't
Doesn't take
edited
much,
my video today. Yeah, but yeah, I'm just doing that to compete with Joe Drake. And hopefully he watched this. I haven't gotten any comments from him, but hopefully he knows that like I only did this to copy him, because that's the biggest form of flattery is just to copy somebody.
Imitation.
I mean, I've seen my scouting reports at different places, so I'm assuming people, I take that as flattery. And I think that's it. I think that's all the things I do. USA Today
Right.
fantasy issue. That's coming out soon. I've got 2 articles to write for that. So that's another thing as well.
All right, man. Well, again, great to have you on. We always love it. Hope you enjoyed your beers. And we will do it again soon, and I'm sure I'll be hitting you up. I got my first year player draft here coming up soon, so I'll have to ping you on Twitter.
We'll own that. We'll own that this year.
All right, man.
Yes, and as of just a few minutes ago, before you spouted off all of that awesome information, I have to give a shout out to my hometown-ish beer brewery, Victory, for the Imperial Cloud Walker double hazy juicy IPA 9.6. There's not many left on the shelves. Shout out to Cheese, my boy, aka DK Nugs, for giving me the heads up that this was at Exton Bev. Also shout out. So got a couple of 4-packs of those. Joe, maybe if you're lucky, I'll save you one. And my
if you're lucky, yeah.
My third beer here is, of course, the triple honey orange triple Belgian 10%er. So I've only gone up in ABV tonight.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you start with fat stacks.
You don't have to work tomorrow. You're good.
Then go to 9. I do have to work tomorrow.
I'm kidding.
So
anyway.
I only have a 3-hour day, so like if I could make it 3,
that would be nice. That must be nice. I do have 2 hours off because I have to take the 2 new children to the vet for a weigh-in that they're probably going to charge me $300 for. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right, man. Chris, again, thanks for coming on, and we're going to close up shop here. See you, man. All right, AJ. I think that's it for us. Next week, we're going to jump into our position previews. We're doing the catcher preview.
I thought we had another show before that.
Did I fuck up? Hang on. Let me
look
at
this. Yes, you did.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Free agent trades and what's changed 2020, 2021. Bringing on fantasy 6-pack writer Connor Thomer. So yeah, we'll do that next week, and then we're jumping into catcher and first base. So we'll get to that one later. Sorry about that, Connor. Didn't mean to slate you there, but all right. That's it for me. Cheers, guys, and see y'all next week.